awake and turn off my, is there like a full screen mode?
It's fine. We're on air.
Oh, alrighty then. Just wish that didn't appear taking so much space. All right. Happy Thursday, everybody. It is February 23rd. We are going to do a rundown of development tasks for Backdrop CMS. Sorry, I don't know how to use my computer. So we've been talking about developing a policy at the PMC for how we would handle sponsorships. And this is something that came up a couple times in the Drupal community, and different groups had decided to handle sponsorships differently. Sometimes people accept trades in exchange for sponsorships, and sometimes they don't. And it did create some conflict in the Drupal community about how you decide what is fair. And both for DrupalCon San Francisco and for Bad Camp, we decided that we wouldn't accept trades for sponsorships. And I wanted to set up some kind of similar precedent in the Backdrop community, and see how everybody here felt about it too, and see if we wanted to accept trades. And I think in Backdrop it's a little different because we need a lot of help from a lot of people that might not be able to contribute in normal ways. And so trying to find a way to make sure that everybody who contributes is attributed for their work is really important. So the language that we decided on, the PMC, this was voted on and confirmed over the last few weeks, is to say that we at Backdrop are not going to allow in-kind trade for sponsorships. All sponsorships must be paid in full. Pro bono work donated by sponsors must be no strings attached. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to try and attribute sponsors for volunteer work or non-sponsors, anyone. And so we've added that in there too. And this is not super important right now because we don't have any sponsorships for Backdrop yet, but we do want to start working on ways that people can give us money in more tangible forms. So like, oh, you want your logo in the newsletter, oh, you want your logo on the website. We want to allow people the ability, we are going to eventually have sponsorships. We wanted to set up a policy at the very beginning about how we were going to handle that. And this specifically came from a contract that we got that said that once we had one of these sponsorships, we would trade for services. And I was like, well, before we have any kind of contract in place, we should figure out how we feel about that. And it sounds like we're all in agreement right now that we want things to be as fair and open as possible. But we also want to make sure that people who contribute time get recognized for their contributions, whether that's, you know, your name on your thank you page, a credit section on a module, byline on something you've created. We want to make sure that everybody feels it's fair. So this is what we've come up so far. And we will, of course, continue to set policies where needed as issues arise. But just so you guys know, we're standing on that. All right, let's talk about backdropcms.org. We've got a lot of stuff going on with the website right now that has kind of, we don't really know when any of it will be done, but we're working on all of it all at once, so it's kind of exciting times. I don't know, Luke, if you want to give us an update on where you are on the new homepage implementation. You know,
yeah, well, it won't take very long. I'm at the point where I'm almost done unwinding the old homepage implementation and starting to plug in the new ideas. You know, as you know, I've been sort of putting together the pieces of what were kind of special cased for, you know, design decisions of the previous you know, very interactive design that aren't applicable to the new design. So it'll be simpler, cleaner. But I'm really just at the point where I'm starting to implement things. So, you know, nothing to show or do yet, but next week we'll have stuff to demo with, if that would be appropriate. I don't know. Or, you know, be between then and now.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks for doing all the investigative work and figuring out how everything was strung together before.
Okay.
All right, so next up is forum. Last week we checked in on the forum and I said that the current blocker was getting bakery module working. I think we're really close. I ran into some problems with some API changes between Drupal and Backdrop that weren't documented. So then of course I went on this wild goose chase of creating change records and trying to figure out if we needed the feature or not. And took a little longer than I anticipated, but I think we're pretty close. I think as soon as we get, right now I've got it so that when you sign in from the forum site to the primary site, you get a user account created on the forum website, which is great, but you don't get logged in. So I have to figure out why the cookies aren't actually getting baked. But I think the fact that we're pulling over data is a good first step. So pretty close on that one. Next steps involve deciding which content type we need to adopt. I haven't checked on that issue. I don't think I checked on it last week either to see if there was any strong preferences. I don't think there are any strong preferences because there aren't any significant differences between the two content types we were evaluating, which was the one thing that I was kind of saying, hey, does anyone see anything here that's different? If no one can see anything different, then no one has a preference. So I think we should just kind of decide on when to move forward. I think Doc Wilmot offered to work on that too. We just need to kind of put some, like, what do we do now information into the issue to get that cleaned up. Let's see, do we have, is Olaf here? No. So I think there's an issue on the translation server that was posted in Gitter today. Did anyone have a chance to read over that and see where we are on next steps? I think it's issue number 5. Let me go take a look real quick. Well, I can't edit this document, but it's issue number 5. If anyone is interested in looking at what we need to do next for localization server. All right, let's move on to Backdrop CMS itself, unless anyone has any feedback. Okay. Neat.
Yeah. Okay. So the Backdrop product update is going to be pretty straightforward this week. We released 1.61 a couple weeks ago now, and 1.62 is, of course, as always, in progress for the next bug fix release. I've been going through, and there's a number of outstanding pull requests and issues that are filed against 1.62, and you can find all of those on GitHub. There's nothing pressing at this time that would push us to make a new bug fix release. So just as those start accumulating, if we get a fair number of them, then we'll push out a new release. But there's not one coming down the pipe in any immediate timeline. So 1.70 is the next minor release of Backdrop, and that will be coming out May 15th, 2017. There's a number of items that we have slated for the 1.7 release, all of which are here in the outline. Page element blocks, layout relationships, and reference module being the 3 main items. I checked in on all of these items, and generally there's nothing really of note since last week that needs to be brought up. All 3 of these need review and participation, however, so if anybody has time to take a look and review some of these, the closest one to completion is 1704, which is the page element blocks issue. And then layout relationships is in just a generally needs architecture review state, and reference module has its own issue tracker, actually, and there's a number of items that need addressing there, including just general feedback, tests, and an upgrade path. There's a bunch of more items that are slated for 1.70 that are of lesser importance or less certain to be completed, and you can find all of those in the GitHub issue tracker for the 1.7.0 milestone. So that's it. Not much as far as individual items that need to be brought up during the meeting for the Backdrop product status update. So let's go on. Next up is general discussion, open Q&A. Looks like, Jeff, you look like you've made some items here regarding Drush. Would you like to make some announcements there?
Sure. I just wanted to point out and made a new release. We got a download backdrop command, drush DLB, and drush site install, which you can use the way that you used to or with an interactive mode, where it will prompt you for database credentials and database and the site install form information.
Awesome.
So between those two commands, you can spin up a backdrop site in like a minute. And then I put in a drush fix permissions command, which is basically the bash script that people know and love from Drupal.org, but it's just has a drush wrapper to implement it, and that has an interactive mode too, where it will prompt you for the web server user and who you want to own the files. But you can also give those options right on the command itself if you'd like to do that. And then there's just a link to the full release notes there. So I just wanted to make people aware of that release of Drush.
Awesome. That's great, Jeff. Yeah, I like DLB. That's nice for download backdrop because, as you know, one of the issues with Drush DL is that Drush DL doesn't have any context from which it can work, right? So it doesn't know whether it's on a backdrop site or a Drupal site. So which one would it download? So yeah, making a separate command entirely for downloading backdrop makes sense. Awesome. Okay. Do we have anything else? Any other announcements or anything else people would like to discuss on broadcast?
I want to announce that we published this blog post. So Columbia Blooms wrote up this great blog post on how to run Backdrop on Windows 10, which is pretty useful. It involves some changes to the way, I don't know, whatever software usually works. That's fairly technical, but I think that the thing that makes me most excited about that post is that this is a solution that works for both Drupal and Backdrop, which is pretty cool. So there was something else we talked about in the outreach meeting that we said we wanted to bring up in this meeting. Does anyone remember what that was?
I think that we were thinking about recapping forum updates.
Okay.
But I think
We did that.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay, and then the other thing was CivvyCon is coming up in May. And so we wanted to see if there was anybody who is in this meeting or watches this video later who would be interested in going. They are going to be doing a talk that sounds like it's a showcase of a backdrop site with CivvyCRM. And so it would be great if we had some other people doing other talks there that kind of fit in nicely with the whole backdrop landscape. I checked out the event. It is Monday and Tuesday, May, lost my calendar, in Monday, Tuesday in May. And the event is then followed by several days of training and sprints. So if anyone's interested in learning about Civvy, they've got training days and or working on Civvy. There's sprints that go through that weekend. So that would be fun if someone wanted to go to CivvyCon and do the backdrop thing. But it would be great if we could get a bunch of people to talk about Backdrop, since there's going to be other stuff going on there about Backdrop too.
I can say in March, there's a Nerd Summit at UMass in Massachusetts, and I'll be giving a talk on Calabox and continuous integration and continuous deployment, and I'll be using Backdrop as the example. So get Backdrop in front of some people.
Can you see if you can get that recorded, even if it's just like a screencast of your monitor?
Yeah, they usually record them and put them on YouTube.
Okay.
But I don't know, but I can ask, and yeah, and then I'll post the video wherever in Gitter, and then we can figure out what to do with it or whatever.
That's fantastic. All right, so anyone have anything else we should talk about this week?
Well, maybe just along that line, Stanford Drupal Camp is coming up. Do we have anything going on with that?
I submitted a session on Backdrop, and I emailed them politely and was like, "Do you guys, are you interested in Drupal?" And they wrote back and said that this is the first Stanford Drupal Camp they're trying to open up to a whole bunch of other technologies as well. So they've got some like WordPress stuff and some other non-CMS stuff going on there, and they said they would be interested in Backdrop too. So I'll be there for that. That's what, March 9th and 10th, is that what you said? Something like that?
10th and 11th.
10th and 11th.
From the site.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday. And if anyone's interested in finding out if there are events in their area, on backdropcms.org/events, we usually put anything we know about where there will be talks on Backdrop. Looks like we haven't. I'll update that later today. There's also a Google Calendar feed. If you go to the resources page, the backdropcms.org/resources, there are 2 iCal feeds. One is for meetings and one is for events. I don't see that one. Well, we'll have to update the website. Oh, the iCal feed link is on the bottom of the events page for the events feed. And all this stuff should be on there. All right, well, if there's nothing else.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
I popped out for 30 seconds around about when Luke talked about design, and I think it finished so quickly and you jumped straight over the forum bit within those 30 seconds, or in the agenda, point number 2. Did you skip it?
No, I don't think we skipped it, but I think it was just a sentence or 2. So it is possible that
All right.
that we passed on by it before you were able to add anything.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just have one. Maybe we take it after the meeting, but I have had just a quick look at those paragraph, the paragraph module. And I wonder if we can have a talk about the structure challenge of integrating it with something that can be compatible to project issues in context of kind of a new forum solution. We have already an issue now on GitHub about the comment mover module, where we can branch off any comment, and then we're going to base a lot of things on entities. So the whole discussion about whether comments should or should not be nodes, they are at any rate entities now, so they should be able to have all those features. So I wonder if this is now quite close to being able to be merged into to be based on the same kind of architecture without needing to be separate modules anymore. Combining comment mover, node clone to mix and match fields. If you look at the display suite module, how when we change from one column to 2 column to 3 column, it just presents us with a mapping wizard to which field should go left, right, up, down, and that's basically also what the node clone module is involved, when you want to clone from one node type to another and they don't share exactly the same fields. as far as I can tell, this is very close to being, we can actually merge it into one that is becoming a kind of a content management Swiss knife.
I think we should stop the broadcast and talk about this offline, because we're getting into sort of the world of contrib, which isn't necessarily stuff we work on in this meeting, but I think it would be good to have kind of a general architecture discussion about it anyway, because these are problems that are facing people who are building sites with Drupal and Backdrop, and there might be a clear path forward. But I want to stop the broadcast right now so people who are watching don't have to watch us figure out how contrib.
One comment.
Sure.
When you stop when you stop the video,
Yeah.
and you publish it on YouTube, maybe we should have a standard image to be put in front, so it's not the arbitrary first image of whoever opens the meeting that is shown on YouTube, but actually especially the logo, a Backdrop logo, and some maybe some information.
I think we looked into that before and it's not possible.
Okay.
But we can definitely look into it again if you know how to do that.
Yeah, I have uploaded to YouTube, and it asks specifically for what should be.
Yeah, we don't upload anything to YouTube. It goes automatically from Google Hangouts.
Okay.
So it's a little tricky.
Yes.
But I'm going to stop the broadcast and we can talk about this offline too. So thank you everybody for joining today, and thank you everybody for watching later. We're going to continue this conversation. So if you're interested, please don't go anywhere. Just going to turn off the recording.
Okay, bye guys, thanks.